I've been, listening to, reading a lot and watching a lot of kind of, different types of, talks and blogs and white papers and so on. And I see a lot of this kind of being, these terms being thrown around. So everything from digital transformation to cloud transformation to then either app migration or cloud migration. Now, I think for me anyway, these things are, these kind of terms, these three terms are all separate, and they ought to and should mean different things.
Yeah.
But I don't know if everybody kind of agrees on that. I've certainly kind of seen some of them being misconstrued and being, used or abused and kind of being used in the wrong place and so on. So either somebody in marketing is getting very, excited and just doing a search and replace in their Word documents and changing everything to digital transformation from whatever it was before. Or, there's just kind of confusion as to actually what these definitions are. And without kind of us having to necessarily stipulate what those things mean, but it's important to kind of just try and maybe distinguish a little bit in terms of what they actually mean, what they entail as well, in terms of what the, what an enterprise is going to be doing if they're doing something like a digital transformation versus, say, an app migration.
Yeah, it's a fairly hot topic of mine too, and one that sort of gets me hot under the collar unless I'm careful. So I'll try and rein that back in. I mean, the easiest way of looking at the three things we talked about is a sort of hierarchical. Right. And at the top level is digital transformation.
Agreed.
Because that is about how do you change your organization to be focused on delivering services and products and solutions digitally, which means you've got to look at business process, you've got to look at the whole strategy of the business. It's a much broader thing than simply, putting up a sort of e-commerce website. I've had a shop front, I've had a shop. Now I'm going to do it online as well. Therefore, I'm transforming digitally. As things have gone on over the last few years, you can see the firms that have got it right and got it wrong in terms of doing it, because they've kept their old processes and just tried to put a web front end on it. And it's, from a user perspective, that's crazy. They're not getting that, it doesn't make sense to the user. It's not giving them any benefit. So hierarchically, that's, it's about business transformation. We can come back later if necessary to why do you want to use the word transformation? The only other thing I would say about digital transformation is too many people see it as a one-off project.
Right. Yeah.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You never finish because the world keeps changing. And at Bloor, we don't use the term digital transformation for that point of view, because people go, oh, well, that's a project. No. So we have the term mutable business,
right.
Because your business will change every day, everything going on around you. So, but that's, look at that term. So digital transformation, the highest level, cloud transformation. I mean, I've struggled a little bit with this middle one. I don't know about your view, but this sort of cloud transformation sort of smacks of, it's almost like going and saying, AWS, you need to transform the way your cloud works. And actually, I think what we're talking about is how do you make your cloud environment more effective?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's what that's all about, is that, through the way in which cloud was acquired by businesses, and what they would call the sort of gray purchasing of individual departments doing it on their credit cards and all those sort of things. Yeah. Cloud transformation to me is about how does an organization get the best out of the cloud that it can.
Yeah.
Simply put. And then obviously cloud migration is, once you've decided you've got a really effective cloud going, what's the process and how do you go about migrating what you want to migrate to the cloud. I was going to say everything to the cloud. I'm not sure that's the case, but what you think needs to go to the cloud, how do you go about it? So that's the sort of hierarchy that I think. If marketing departments are doing as you described, changing everything to digital transformation, they want to be taken out and shot.
Yes. I think my punishment would be a bit harsher than that, but yeah. But no, seriously though.
Slower and more painful, yes.
Exactly. I mean, death by 1,000 paper cuts or something like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely, and I agree, digital transformation is a kind of a bigger piece, and it's a kind of an umbrella term, which could include, things like app migration or cloud migration within that, for example.
Yeah.
But it's not just for that, and there is other stuff going on within the enterprise that is basically, at the very basic level, digitizing a process that used to be done manually. So you're applying some kind of technology to a process, for me, that used to be done manually. So a great example of that, and this actually I discussed with a particular customer, a few years ago, it was a car manufacturer. They had dealerships and partners. And what they wanted to do was digitize that sort of customer experience when they come into the car showroom, to actually have, check out some of the models and start talking to the sales rep about, financing and models available, colors and features of the cars and the models and so on. So that process would normally mean that the sales representative would go and get a paper catalog of all the models, and start flicking through, and then going, yes, this one has air conditioning, that one has, sat nav, and things like that, and yes, it's available in yellow, yes, it's available in whatever, colors and so on. So now I see, if that was DX'd, if that was digitally transformed, that experience, the sales rep would actually come up with a tablet in their hand, and then they would show on the tablet all the features, all the functions, all the models, all the financing capabilities. And actually you could take that to a even further level, where as the sales rep is actually tapping onto the screen and, interacting with this kind of, application, the application is feeding data back to HQ in real time. And the AI that's kind of analyzing the data, analyzing that stream of data, is actually sending back real-time stuff, because the customer said, oh, do you have it in yellow for that particular model? The app could be also presenting or putting up on the screen for the sales rep information about the yellow model. So there could be like a trade-in deal on the yellow model, or they could decide to offer a trade-in deal for this customer on the yellow model to entice the customer to actually purchase that product, right? And that's how I kind of see digital transformation, that you're taking what used to be a manual process, you've digitized it, and you've applied some logic and sort of analytics and so on, some kind of AI at the back end as well, to kind of make it a little bit more interactive. In this case, to kind of entice the customer to actually buy that model. And that for me would be a great example. And like I said, this is what I was discussing with that particular customer, a number of years ago. I also agree with your, not the cynical, but the correct definition of cloud transformation that you mentioned as well. So yeah, so that is definitely for those customers who, were either pioneers in the cloud or just grown organically in the cloud, but unfortunately kind of grown without a strategy, without a policy, without any governance applied to the cloud. So as you said, kind of, stick your credit card, into the slot, so to speak, and then just kind of done that in a very siloed approach. So they're now kind of coming back, because that's sort of biting them in the backside, in terms of the issues that they're having about governance, security, data sovereignty, you name it.
Cost.
And now there's cost, exactly. And they're now saying, exactly. And now they're saying, actually, hang on, we need to do this properly. So we need a partner who's going to consult and help us to do this, and we need to do this properly and approach it from something with some kind of governance, some kind of policy applied to it, some kind of finance policy apply to it, and then bring in things like FinOps and so on to help rein in some of those sort of cloud costs as well. And then, yes, absolutely. The third, again, I completely agree with you in terms of, migrating apps. So kind of doing an app migration or a so-called cloud migration. That's where you're kind of really just looking at the applications that you have, and you're vacating your data center or your current sort of, computing environment for whatever reason. And there's a number of reasons. We won't go kind of into all the details of that. But for whatever reason, there is an impetus, there's a drive to migrate to the cloud, and then you're looking at the low-hanging fruits and identifying what those low-hanging fruits are by doing your usual sort of assessment and dependency mapping and so on, and then you're deciding on those sort of early migrations that you're going to do, those sort of low-hanging fruits that you're going to do first, and then you start the process of migration. So I think that's, and I agree with you on those. Those are kind of the three sort of layers, as you said, that that we can use these terms in. But I just see a lot of kind of confusion in marketing and presentations, and even people who kind of stand up and do this stuff when they talk about it. It's a little bit like we may come back to this term in the future, cybersecurity, when everybody just throws out the word cybersecurity. And it could mean anything. It could, be infrastructure security. It could be, cloud security. It could be data security. It could be person security, individual security, user security, all sorts of stuff, right? But they just kind of throw out this word, cybersecurity. So again, I'm seeing, digital transformation, cloud transformation, and then sort of app migration or cloud migration, again, being sort of interchangeably used sometimes. And I think that's incorrect.
Yeah, unfortunately, and this is not a new phenomenon. I think, IT going back decades has, come up with new terms for things of which the rest of the market then suddenly jumps on, because actually they're all quite difficult to nail down. It's loose enough usually that says, well, that could be part of cloud transformation, or that could be part of digital transformation. Well, yes, it might be, but actually dressing it up as digital transformation or cloud transformation can be the wrong thing to do. I just think, cloud generally has been misunderstood by an awful lot of marketing departments, and we tend to take a view that says, actually look at cloud as being it's a consumption mechanism. Because the minute you try and get into and you listen to people trying to explain, what cloud is technically, is just, a nightmare, for anybody who's not technically oriented, trying to listen to it, because you can pull yourself into all sorts of knots, when you get into infrastructure as a service and platform as a service and software as a service, and most people who are not technology oriented lose the will to live. But that's, again, plays into the fact that people have heard the term cloud. So anything that's got cloud in it has got to be good, almost by definition now. So cloud migration, cloud transformation, digital transformation, although it doesn't say cloud, is almost like, oh, we ought to be doing that, shouldn't we? And oh, yes, you should. And by the time you're in the middle of it, you're going, this isn't as easy as we thought, or this isn't doing what I thought it was going to do. That's what you tend to hear from people, is that, or you take cloud transformation, we thought cloud was going to be cheaper. Yes, that can be. Yes. It should be. But you go about it the wrong way, trying to take the wrong applications to the cloud and not completely rewriting them, and find it doesn't work very well there, or you don't have control over that cloud in terms of turning off instances when when you can, and actually making sure the right instances are running, all those sort of things. But there's a sort of general acceptance, if you say cloud, it's got to be good. And I think that's the challenge as much as anything else, is getting people to think, yes, it is changing.
Yes, it should be. Exactly.
It should be, but don't take it for granted. I mean, when you look at the component parts and I think we've probably had this conversation on one of these calls before. You know, it's the classic swan syndrome, isn't it?
Yes.
On the surface, it looks really smooth and easy, but my God, somebody's paddling hard underneath. You know, usually the developers and the apps and the operations team paddling like fury to bring it all together.
Yeah, with GitOps and DevOps.
With GitOps and DevOps. And I always say to people, you know, if you want to get a sense of the complexity of all the bits and pieces that need to go together, look at the cloud native, you know, Compute Foundation's cloud trail and go, actually, okay, you can live with half of it or 3/4 of it, but to do it really well, you need to think about all the component parts that are in the CNCF cloud trail. And that doesn't even start with data, which is what the next topic we're going to come on to. So, and so it's, you know, and everybody sort of gets very uptight about, you know, old mainframes or this, that, and the other. The glory of the old mainframe was that they did everything for you. Now you've actually got everything that was embedded in that black box of a mainframe that locked you in theory. The actual underpinning technologies are not that dissimilar, but now they've all been taken out of the box, thrown on the table, and people are told, put it together. That's a challenge.
Yeah, that's Pandora's box has been opened.
But it's the Lego box. You know, you get the picture of the Lego, you know, on the front. It looks really great, and then you open the box, and there's thousands of red, white, and yellow pieces. And it says, now put these together. Okay, all right. And if you follow the instructions, it works, and it looks really good. If you don't follow the instructions, you don't half get some odd-looking Lego.
Thank you for watching this talk. If you enjoyed the content, please comment, share, like, and subscribe to support the channel. You may also want to check out some of the other videos on this channel. See you next time.